got it loaded. What do you got to do?
Shut it.
Do you support the federal ban of certain classes of firearms, such as some semi-automatics, that have been traditionally used for self-defense, competitive target competition, hunting, and recreational shooting?
Well, I think the biggest problem we have with guns are not those that are purchased legally, but those that are used illegally. And the thing that we need to do is prosecute those who are using guns for purposes other than which they're intended, for protection or for sport. And until we actually prosecute those, and that's a problem currently with the administration, gun prosecutions have gone down considerably. So the problem isn't that we're I mean, what we really need to do is keep guns out of the hands of criminals, and to make sure that criminals that use guns are prosecuted. But we should not do anything that would have lawful purchasers, people who are not criminals, go through steps that will make them so they aren't protected.
When you go to Washington, you bring your life experience with you. What specific talents and expertise can you bring to the table in Washington that will represent us and the country, and what committees would you like to serve on? Well,
I've spent the past 7 years at the Goldwater Institute. We look to solve public policy problems through the free market. And time again over the past 7 years, when we suggest policy options, we would come up to problems with the federal government. We could only go so far in areas to clean the air or to reform education or to privatize before you come up across some federal roadblock. And a lot of that involves transportation policy. We, for example, at the Goldwater Institute, advocated a more decentralized bus system for the city of Phoenix. But that's not what the federal government likes to see. And so they try to dictate, where you spend your money. You can only have it for this purpose or for that purpose. So I think it's important that we have somebody on the Transportation Committee.
What do you plan to do in Washington to represent those underrepresented classrooms in Arizona?
Well, the best program as far as the federal government with regard to education is to make sure that individual schools have the freedom to teach kids as they know best. And that applies to safety programs as well. The federal government doesn't know what is best necessarily for schools in Chandler or Ahwatukee or Mesa or anywhere else. Those decisions are best made locally. And those local schools need the ability and the flexibility to actually do what they think is right.
Life, yes, abortion, no.
Mr. Flake, why should the pro-life community vote for you, dedicated to the pro-life cause, more so than to Tom Liddy?
Well, I think you just want a pro-life candidate, one who is unapologetically and unabashedly pro-life, and that's me. I don't know what else to say in that regard. I am pro-life. Full stop.
You have to have a shirt.
Everyone agrees that health care is one of the major issues this country is facing right now. What can you do on the federal level to improve health care without putting it on the backs of small businesses?
It ought to be up to the insurance companies and up to the free market as to what insurance companies include in their coverage. Whenever government tries to come in and mandate certain methods of coverage or the extent of coverage, we simply drive up the cost for everyone else. I ought to have the ability to choose between insurance companies which coverage I'm going to get for whatever prescription drugs. But whenever the federal government gets involved in mandating coverage, it simply drives up the cost for everyone.
Do you support President's creation of 3 new national monuments this year and maybe a 4th one?
Well, it's tough to say. If it had gone through the process that it should have gone through, then I may well support it, but it didn't. And we didn't know nearly enough about the designation of these monuments because it was done arbitrarily. We need to change the process. We need to amend the Antiquities Act under which the President did it. The Congress is there. That is how the people's voice is heard, and they were ignored on this.